Hello, Professor Bruns. This video is to go along with my observations for this course. I'm going to be showing some of my preferred teaching strategies, lesson design, and about how my classroom environment will look in the future, and I guess how it has looked as a substitute teacher as well. So I'm going to switch over to the desktop here and kind of go through some of the links that I have put together to kind of demonstrate these ideas. So first up, here I am over on Pinterest, and I wanted to start with this idea of Socratic questioning. For me, this is one of the parts of teaching I enjoy most. I love asking questions. I love coming to understand what students have in their minds and being able to try to push them further in understanding what it is that they're thinking about and just understanding how deep and complex their thoughts really are, just how much they have kind of in there inside them that they don't always know about, they're not always aware of. So some of these questions in Socratic questioning I really like. There's questions like, why do you say that? What could we assume instead? What would be an example? What would be an alternative? What are you implying? And what was the point of this question? So these are some ideas, there's some examples of Socratic questions that you could ask. Really, I think what it comes down to is just a genuine interest, a genuine belief that these students actually have this information inside them. And so I really enjoy this aspect of teaching. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next aspect I have here, which is over here on Twitter. And I like this page because it says here, why is it important to use Socratic questioning when teaching? It kind of goes over some of the information here, like the fact that it creates an active classroom, that it ignites thinking, that it helps to challenge misconceptions. It inspires students to take an interest in learning. It can deepen students' understanding, encourages students to participate. It encourages analysis. It develops curiosity. It encourages evaluation, and it improves critical thinking. So I think these are all really interesting ideas. And this comes over from Believe Perform over here on Twitter. And I really highly agree with this information and the fact that it really does these things for the classroom. Another idea that I really have taken away from this course is this idea of guided discovery. So I found some resources on guided discovery. So first up, let me switch over to this SlideServe website where I found this gentleman, Wilbur Ferdinand, who I could not find more of online. But he has a slide over here about guided discovery, and he talks about this pure model versus a guided model. And it says here, teachers have found that discovery learning is most successful when students have prerequisite knowledge and undergo some structured experiences. So this comes back to, I believe, how I've tried to improve my lesson plans with not being so lengthy and so packed with information. It's about those smaller chunks of information so that I can set students up with the information that they need to then be able to progress into later parts of a unit and to other lessons to where they can really take advantage of this idea of discovery, having that background knowledge. So I'm really happy I was able to start making my lessons quite a bit shorter so that way the students are set up for discovery in the future. So some other things that this website says. Most researchers would argue that peer discovery learning as a general and global teaching strategy for beginning and intermediary learners doesn't work. The debate on how much guiding is needed is somewhat open. Now this is something, when I consider it, I'm not into just setting kids off to go discover, go learn. I mean, what's the point of me being there in that point? I think it really takes being with the students and guiding them. I think a lot of guidance with students is appropriate when they're discovering and when they're learning. I'm really not sure how they could get by without it. I guess the amount of guidance there is definitely open to question, but as much as possible until the students probably have had too much of me, and then I kind of back away. So I think it's definitely a matter of like being there with the student, maybe sometimes intensely, and then backing up and giving them more room to discover. But guided discovery overall, I was really excited to learn about during this course. All right, so next up, I'm going to go over here and go to our next website, which is the Physical Education Project over here on Twitter. And this is more about guided discovery. It says here that for guided discovery, a teacher plans a series of questions and tasks that direct students towards discovering a predetermined answer. And that's the big part I wanted to talk about when I saw this. I don't always think that there's a predetermined answer that the student should be arriving to. So I'm not sure I agree completely with that idea of guided discovery in terms of always having to have the students come to one particular answer. I'm much more open-ended, and I really do believe that I can learn from students. So if they've got an idea that I haven't considered, well, that's good. We can go with that. We can run with that, because I found in my experience that there is a lot to learn from students, that we are really better off if we're on a level playing field rather than me being in charge of everything and guiding them to this one specific place I want them to go. We may end up somewhere completely different, and that's completely fine, as long as we can pull that back to the standards and make some meaningful learning happen out of that, which is my job. So we're going to keep going here as my phone beeps with information coming through. And I'm going to move on to, let's go with the design. It's actually, I'm going to have to put this in the UDL guidelines. I thought I had it bookmarked. And really, when it comes to the UDL guidelines, this would be my preferred manner of designing lessons. So I've used it in my previous courses before this course, and I really am trying my best to get more familiar with it. The idea of having a universal design for everybody that incorporates everybody is really what I'm after. So in this, we have what are these different aspects of this learning of engagement, representation, action, and expression. So I'm really on board with this bottom row, which is where the students are going to internalize these aspects of the lesson plans, which are self-regulation, comprehension, and executive functions. So students are going to need to be self-regulated. They need to be successful in the world, in their lives outside of school, to be able to self-regulate. We're definitely going to be going for comprehension all the time, really understanding what's going on with the ideas that we're exploring, highlighting patterns and relationships, and maximizing the ability to transfer this information out to other places. And then executive functions is the last aspect of the UDL here, which students are working towards. And appropriate goal setting, facilitating and managing information and resources, providing those things for the students to have, and enhancing the capacity for monitoring progress. These are all things I think are really essential for students. And when it comes to the UDL presentation here of what we should have students doing, these are the general areas. And then these, as we come through vertically, are kind of like steps to get to this end result of self-regulation. So we're going to do this recruiting interest. We're going to talk about and help students sustain effort and persistence, which then leads them to the self-regulation. And so we have it in these other areas too. We're going to provide options for perception, provide options for languages and symbols. So that is going to go and help us to get to comprehension. And then the same thing here, physical action, expression, and communication. That's what's going to lead us to executive functions. Okay, so far we've talked a little bit about my idea for a lesson design, also that idea of guided discovery that I want to do with the students. And next I'd like to discuss a little bit about my classroom environment, which is very, very important to me. I have this idea in my mind, and it usually plays out with students in my experience in substitute teaching, that's just welcoming and safe. I would have to say safe is one of those really big things. I really want my students to feel welcome and to feel safe. I think that Without those as a base layer, we're not going to be able to progress on to learning. Students need to feel safe and they need to feel welcomed in an environment so that they can then move on to other pieces of learning. So I have some other websites lined up to go more into my idea of what my classroom environment would be like. So I'm going to switch over to some links I have ready. And the first one is from this website, Wild About Fifth Grade. And this is about class library. So I'm very big on reading and having resources available. In fact, my job coming up is as an ELA teacher. I have my own class in the first half of the day, and the second half of the day, I have students rotating out. And they're rotating out with me. They're sixth graders, and they're rotating out in the second half of the day and working specifically on English language arts. So this organization is really big for me. I'm really big on things looking clean and being clean and organized. You can see that the student desks are very clean and organized here too. I just think that's incredibly important to the overall classroom environment. Okay, next up, I'm going to switch over to some decorations. So this next one is a door that's decorated with a character from Minecraft. It's a kind of a popular video game. It doesn't have to be Minecraft, but something what I really like about this is that it's made with simple materials. You have what basically look like almost like post-it notes or green squares, and it's something that you could put together without having to be so artistically inclined. So I really like this idea for Minecraft. I'm really into video games. I love video games. I think they're much more valuable than they are given credit for most of the time. So I like this idea of a video game character kind of coming into the classroom. And Minecraft specifically is one of my favorites. I'm going to switch over to another page here that shows a little bit of decoration from the Minecraft game. You can see the bookcases here, kind of this cool font, some torches to light up the area, and then some of the characters from Minecraft. So this might be for a younger group, third graders, fourth graders. I mean, it really depends on the group of students and how into it they are. Definitely younger students though. I mean, that third grade probably is the prime area for a game like Minecraft and maybe some of this video game stuff. But I've seen video game type tools used at sixth grade level and really effectively. And so I think the one I'm thinking about is called Classcraft. It's kind of a very video game feeling based type of classroom management system. So it might really just depend on the game itself. So let's look at some more stuff about my classroom environment. Moving from decorations, which I'm super into video games. And that kind of led me into this type of like pixel art. I really love these like post-it notes used for decorations for drawing, really, without drawing. And as we scroll down, we can see some different characters used. This one's super cool in this building. You can even see this teacher over here decorating her whole class wall with some of these post-it notes. And I think it's a good way for kids to be able to produce artwork that doesn't necessarily take drawing with a pen and pencil, and which some students may not be so comfortable with. And so some of these can be really cool. You can even generate these on the computer with little patterns to follow, which is super nice. Okay, so that's a little bit about like the decoration of the classroom, which I want to feel very welcoming and at the kids level. I really just like that clean, organized, really as simple as possible is a guiding principle for me usually. And so just that feel and the content of the decorations, if I'm using a video game or a particular movie or something like this or a season, I think is really just going to depend upon the students who are in the class. That's what it's going to take, is getting to know those students. Hopefully when I'm out of school for multiple years in a row, I am aware of the students who are coming my direction. So as a sub, when I went to a couple of schools really regularly, I got to know the kids. I got to know who they were before coming to my class. So I would hope as a regular teacher, I'll be able to do work like that and be able to have an idea of the students coming into my classroom to try and maybe have something prepared for them, have it look in a welcoming way for them that they feel comfortable. And that would just be, I think, a lot better for them to come into it that way, and then also develop it along the rest of the year. So now I'm going to move over to some other items. I'll look back here at the computer, and the next part really comes to the students' organization themselves. So my classroom environment in the school I'm going to be teaching at this fall, they have these outdoor backpack hangers, which I think just set a good example or a good first step of like, hey, look at our day being organized like right away, having our backpacks put away, because my classroom environment is neat and tidy. There's really not a whole lot of leeway with that. I think it's just such an important part, this whole idea of organization. As I scroll down here on Pinterest, you can see a lot of other examples of these types of backpack hangers that just leave a lot more room inside of the classroom. You know, it's not just neat and tidy because I'm a neat and tidy person and that's the way it goes, but we're doing things like that, like these backpacks on the outside of the wall, because it leaves a lot more room in our classroom for learning, for walking around and moving around. So there's a purpose behind that. And that's outside of the classroom. And then if I go here to the next one, which would be looking at desk organization. So I really like this picture. This whole room is a bit busy for me, but I really am into how these desks are organized. Again, I'm super neat and tidy, but for a purpose. You know, if we need to get our books out, then our books are where they need to be. We can get to them. I've been in classrooms where the books are all over in a shelf way against the wall in a corner, and then we have to spend 10 minutes getting kids to go over to get their textbooks, bring them back to the desk, pass them out. I'm looking for something that is accessible. So I really like this idea of organizing desks with all the stuff in the middle, so that students are right there and they're able to get what they need and start, you know, get going on a lesson. I've seen things like this similar to this in classrooms, where sometimes it's just like one big bucket on the desk and it gets pretty messy and kids kind of fight over what's where and who pushed it and who put things back. So I really am into just this idea of having the desks set up in a way that everything's easily accessible. So let's go back to some more of these ideas. That's the desk organization. Another thing is inside desks. I really like this picture because this is an area that I don't have a lot of flexibility with. I'm not so particular in terms of exactly how a desk is organized. To start, I may ask students to organize a specific way. I probably would ask students to organize their desks a specific way. Have these books here, your pencils and whatever over here at the front of the desk. Really depends on the desk. But I'm also open to students organizing their desks how it fits best for them, as long as it's actually organized. I have looked into students' desks and seen food and crumbs and candy wrappers and things just packed in so tight that there's nothing to be done there in terms of learning. It's more of a hindrance than a lot of other things when the student has this black hole of stuff in their desk and it's just spewing out, and oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. I have cleaned out so many desks as a substitute teacher. I hope some of those teachers were happy that I cleaned a lot of food and trash out of students' desks. And sometimes we find cool stuff in there, toys and cool pencils or markers, so it always works out really well. So desks being organized is a must for me. Again, not just because it's how I want it, but for allowing us to be more effective in our learning, to be able to reach in and grab something. If we're working with multiple sources and having to gather information and synthesize things, we need to be able to access those things regularly and efficiently so that we can get that information, those books and that information out, work with it, put it away, grab the next thing, work on that. If we are doing that, we're not wasting so much time with other things and trying to find things, and oh my goodness, how many things have been lost in the classroom is wild to me. So I really am into a very organized desk. Again, how I would like it at first, and then if you have another way of organizing, then we'll go with that as long as it's organized. So next up is, we talked about the outside of the classroom, being organized right here with like our backpack hangers, having the desks organized on top, having desks organized in the inside of the desks. And then also the last up for me would be notebook organization, as my computer struggles to get this page up. I'll talk about it for a moment. My own experience when it comes to notebook organization was that I never organized a notebook until college. I had a friend at the time who saw all of my classes and everything all over the place in my backpack, and actually went out, bought me an organizer, like a big pouch for my folder, for my all my folders, bought me little individual folders to go in that pouch. We labeled everything, and that was a huge game changer for me in terms of organizing. I've been organizing my stuff ever since. And I just think it's super important for students. And oh, we just got our page back up, so let's take a look at it. Now, it's just ever since I've tried to keep my stuff organized. This is not exactly what my students' folders would look like, but this is going to be a start. We will have dividers. I do not care if I have to go buy these things. Especially with having multiple subjects, I am very into having these things divided. The labels, there would be labels here, clearly labeling which subject, which area goes to. We would definitely pull stuff out of the folders, put them back into the folders, and it's just a must. Again, not because I'm just so neat and tidy and it has to be that way, but it's almost like the little, it kind of mimics the little filing system we have in our brain. You know, we need to be able to see this information, to flip back and forth. If we're working between multiple sources of information, we need to be able to get to those clearly. If you were working on something yesterday in your writing, let's get to the writing so we can start writing, and we're not spending so much time fumbling around and trying to get to the thing that we're working on. It just seems such a waste to spend all that time working on those things rather than working on the work itself. So this is what I have in terms of how I would love my classroom to look and feel and be organized. Also, we talked about a little bit about lesson design, and then also some of my teaching strategies that I'd like to use. So thank you so much for sticking around for the whole video. I appreciate everything you've done here for us and kind of imparted to us through this course and through the readings and through our observations. And I will see you later on. Thanks so much.